Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. I'm good, thank you. I'm looking like an extra from Game of Thrones today because I'm a little chilly.
You are indeed. I love it. I love it. I also am very excited because we have a guest on the show today, and I have the absolute pleasure of inviting Sian Hill. Sian is an NLP master practitioner and trainer. And I had the pleasure of meeting her early this year at an event in our hometown, where Sian was giving an introduction to NLP and the unconscious mind. And Sian shared something which we're going to unpack today in the podcast that I've tried to translate to Charlotte and I've done very unsuccessfully, but it involves a submarine. But we will get into that in a moment. But first of all, welcome to the show, Sian. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, lovely to
Yay!
have you. I'm
Oh,
excited.
absolutely. So we're going to be talking about the unconscious mind today. But before we kick off, Sian, we love for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So if you're just happy to share with us a little bit about you, your kind of personal growth, personal development journey, and how you got to where you are today, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, of course. So, gosh, where to begin?
It's a
Back
big
in
question.
1984. So, to kind of summarize my journey, because the goal was never to be a coach, a trainer. That was never on the cards. Growing up, I always wanted to be an actress. That was the dream. And I remember going to a careers meeting, must have been around the age of 15, something like that, and telling the careers advisor, I want to be an actress when I leave school. And she said to me, that's very nice. And what are you really going to do? Because that's not a real job. And whilst I was really disappointed at the time, there was also a part of me that felt really relieved, like I'd been let off the hook, because deep down, I didn't believe that it was possible. I was scared that if I did achieve it, that then I wouldn't be able to cope and I'd be seen in the public. So it was kind of, oh, now I don't have to do this. So I let it go and went off to do a sports course, which goodness knows why. But so the trajectory of my life in that moment took a different turn. Then throughout my 20s, I just went from job to job. I was in a toxic relationship. I was drinking too much. I had no career prospects. My health was suffering. Life was just not really going anywhere that I'd planned. And it was around the age of, late 20s. I was at an all-time low. I was feeling probably quite depressed. And my mum gave me a book, The Secret, and said, you can create your own reality. Your thoughts change your thinking. And I remember reading it and thinking, oh my gosh, this makes total sense. I looked at my life as it was and what had led me to where I was and the lack of confidence, the lack of self-worth. I thought, I can see how my thoughts have led me to this point. So whilst I didn't like it, it was kind of an answer to my life. And it felt true. I thought, this makes total sense to me. So it was like a door had been opened. 6 months later, after doing affirmations, meditating, creating a vision board and sitting and waiting for a car to land on my drive and checks to come in the mail, not a lot had changed. And I was feeling like a bigger failure than ever because I thought in that moment, I can't even create my own reality. That I know this can happen, but I can't even do that properly. So whilst I had started shifting little bits, small improvements, I had pockets of time where I felt good, but the majority of the time I was still me. What it did do is led me down a bit of a rabbit hole. So I was looking at, right, if your thoughts change your life, then how do I change my thoughts? Because they weren't serving me. They weren't very nice thoughts. And that was when I stumbled across this thing called NLP, which I think I called like NPL or something at the time. It was like and then I found that other people were using this and they were getting really quick results. So I decided to do the course. I remember putting it on my last credit card. I used the last bit of my balance. I was like, I'm doing this course just for personal reasons. I had to break through these walls. So I did the course and things started shifting. I felt different really, really quickly. I started pursuing the acting work again and getting some jobs, because prior to that, it was kind of, why would anybody want to work with me? I didn't have the confidence. It was almost like a resistance of, even though I want it, I'm putting the brakes on at the same time. And then suddenly I had the confidence in these auditions that I was going to, and things started changing. So I then went on the following year to do my master practitioner, and that changed everything. My whole life transformed on that course. And within the space of 12 months, I'd left the relationship after 10 years that I was just, it was mentally, emotionally, physically abusive, and I'd always been too scared to leave. And I suddenly had the courage and the self-belief that I was worth more. I started paying off my debts. I was getting good acting work. 12 months later, I was in I found a man, still got him now. And life just got better and better and better. It was probably then for, I don't know, maybe 4 years, I was dipping in and out of coaching whilst doing the acting work and doing some other bits. And then at some point I received a script for, can't even remember what it was for, but I remember having a script for this. I think it was like a training video, and I had to learn all of these lines. And I was reading through them thinking, oh, I've got to learn lines. I thought, hang on a second, isn't this the dream, to have words to say in an acting job? What's going on here then? And I checked in with myself and I thought, you know what? I spend all of my spare time talking about, reading about, learning about mindset and how you change your thinking. And I thought, this is my purpose. This is my passion. This is what I want to spend my time doing. So I then went on to do my trainer's training so that I was able to teach other people NLP and accredit them as coaches. That was back in 2018. So that's what I've been doing since. So I now train people to do just that. And I love it. And it's something that I practice every single day, because with every every new opportunity that you open yourself up to comes with its equal hurdles that you need to overcome. So it's like, right, how do I practice what I preach and embody this stuff so that I know that it works, which is why I can kind of share it with others with so much passion, because I've experienced it firsthand.
Wow. Oh, what an inspirational story. And I love how you've highlighted there right at the end, Sian, that it is a practice, isn't it? And just out of interest, so you went into NLP initially then, was that for yourself as opposed to for others?
Yeah, it was I think it was must have been around 2010 when I first got The Secret. And I remember after reading that was when I initially started putting myself forward for acting work and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and very quickly found, although I was telling myself, I can do this, I've got the jobs, the voice in my head was saying otherwise. And I didn't have the self-belief. And I was going into these very small auditions for student movies and things like that with my head held down and thinking, why would they choose me when they can have her? I shouldn't be here. Who do I think I am? So when I found the NLP course, it was purely just to get rid of what felt like a brick wall that was in front of me. No intention of using it outside of that. I was just like, just please help change my thoughts.
But now how wonderful that you get to do that for other people. You help them to change those thoughts and tap into that unconscious mind and do the rewiring and the reprogramming. And I also absolutely love that your mom was the person that gave you The Secret. I love that.
Yeah, she was always the one that, no matter, even to this day now, she sees so much more for me than I see for myself. So even though I'm practicing this stuff and I've got goals and the things that I want to achieve, she's already seeing way further down the line. So I'm like, go mum, she is my biggest cheerleader.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Do you know, I'm still yet to read The Secret. I've read many books now, and I'm like, I really need to read that one, because even my husband's read it many, many years ago, and I'm like, that's on my list.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it is almost like the door opening, I think, for so many people, where it's, oh, hang on, life doesn't just happen to us and we have no say in it. Is like, there is another way of thinking. For me, then it was that next level of, right, I know this is possible. Now, what's the how behind it? How do I really make those shifts?
So let's talk about that, because I think this is where we can bring in that submarine, isn't it? It's like the unconscious mind. So what is the unconscious mind, Sian?
Yeah, so let's talk about the unconscious mind, the submarine. I don't own a submarine, by the way. But so the way that I think of the unconscious mind is that as people, we have two minds. There's the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. The conscious mind is everything that we're aware of consciously in the moment, like me talking right now, the sound, if you're watching this, the sight of us. Then the unconscious mind is everything else that's happening in the moment. So the temperature of your breath as you're breathing in and out, the feeling of the back of your left calf. It's all there, yet until you bring it into your conscious awareness, you're completely unconscious to it. Now, between the age of 0 and 7, we are like a little unconscious sponge. We don't have any conscious mind to step in and question things and analyze and rationalize. So we're just absorbing the world around us and taking on the beliefs, the values, the thoughts, the actions. Our mind is being programmed to think, feel, and act a certain way. So by the age of 7, if you imagine your unconscious mind a bit like a submarine, it's responsible for 95% of the power of the mind, and it's programmed to head in a particular direction. So we just do things without thought, which is really, really useful because we can tie our shoelaces, we can walk, we can do all of these wonderful things without any conscious effort. They just happen. And there are also the behaviors and the thoughts that maybe hinder us or don't serve us. So submarines heading in its direction. The conscious mind then is responsible for the other 5% of the mind. And I liken it to a rowing boat sat on top of the water. So this is the stuff that we see, and it's what we call reality. Now, when we're looking at reality and saying, do you know what? I don't like my life. I want to change it. I want to head in a new direction. We get out our metaphorical oars and start rowing to turn the rowing boat around. So you're like, right, I'm off here instead. But what we don't know, don't realise, don't take into account is that the submarine and the rowing boat are tied together, and the submarine didn't get the memo. So it's still unconsciously, we're still heading in the usual direction, and our conscious mind is sat on the water attempting to row against the submarine and pull against it. This is what you call willpower, and it's why it can feel like really hard work, and it can create an internal conflict. Because it's like, I want to go over here, but at the same time, I'm doing this behavior instead, and I don't get it. And it can create internal arguments with ourselves, questioning why we're doing what we're doing, and it's exhausting. So the work that I do is diving into the submarine and changing those programs, a lot of which served us at the time, but don't necessarily serve us anymore, and putting in the rerouting the sat nav within there to go in a different direction, and then the rowing boat kind of goes along for the ride. So you then, to me, that's what I call alignment. It's when you are on the same page. When you to use the earlier example of going into an audition, it's like, this is what I want to achieve. I want to act, I want to create a business, whatever it might be. And the voice in my head, the stories I'm telling myself are saying, yes, you've got this, you can do this, and you have absolute belief in the outcome that you're working towards.
I love that, and that's so far beautifully put than how I tried to explain this to Charlotte on my report back. And you can just see it, can't you? On that, like you said, on the surface, we try and do these things like, one thing for me personally, I think when the getting fit, the going to the gym, like I know what I want to achieve, but it's that self-sabotaging behaviors. I get so far, and then actually, is there something going on in the unconscious, deep down the depths with this submarine, pulling me in a different way to go, hold on, pull you back to what you think is right for you, or what I believe about what's possible for me. So you can kind of see in real life how it can kind of play out like that we want these things, we strive for these things, but we're just so unaware of actually what our unconscious mind has been programmed to think and feel and believe and behave in such ways that it's not in alignment. And spinning that submarine around and getting it in the right way is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because to use the gym as an analogy, because it's something that people can relate to, if you go into the gym with the intention of getting fit, losing weight, building muscle, whatever it might be, and there's an underlying belief of, well, I never succeed at anything, this is never going to happen, people like me don't do this, I've tried this before, it didn't work, then you can kind of appreciate if that's the message that's going on, the motivation to actually get there can almost seem a bit pointless, because it's almost, without doing it on purpose, you're setting yourself up for failure. So because your brain likes to prove itself right. So whatever you believe to be true, your mind will look to show you. So it's like, see, I knew I would fail. So you've kind of got to, I think even just understanding this, you can take a breath, and it's not about letting yourself off the hook, but appreciating, right, so it's not that I'm a failure. I've just got a belief that isn't helping me. And that is something that I can change. I'm not broken. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. And I suppose it's then, oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I suppose it's then bringing that into the conscious mind through awareness then, would you say, Sian? So kind of like, if we got the principle now from what you've just explained, that we've got one thing that we think we want to do, but a load of stuff that we're completely unaware of that thinks something else for us. What would you say would be a step to kind of bringing that into awareness, to start to explore?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Awareness is key, because if you don't know something exists, then how do you change it? So the first step in anything is noticing, right, what is my life at the minute? What is it that I'm experiencing? There's to bring this to a universal law. So one of the universal laws is the law of gravity, just to make it easy to understand what one is. What goes up must come down. So we work with gravity. We don't step out of our second story window. We use the door downstairs so we don't break our legs. So the law of correspondence is as within, so without, and it works both ways. So whatever you're seeing outside of you is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if, for example, you're not making the money you want, that is a reflection that there must be a belief about what money you're capable of making. So even if it's like, well, I don't know what I believe, or I don't know what it is that I'm doing, you can look outside and go, well, what are the results? And then reverse engineer and say, how is it that I've created this version of reality that I'm experiencing right now? That's one way of doing it. The other way is to maybe get out your journal and reflect on your day at the end of the day and say, right, how was I feeling today? What behaviors did I carry out when I was doing those behaviors? What were the thoughts that came before it? What's my general overall kind of default setting within this day? So it's Carl Jung, famous psychiatrist, said, what's his quote? It's, until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life and you'll call it fate.
So true.
So it is about, right, becoming aware, ideally regularly, whether it's setting an alarm on your phone every hour to just bing and go, oh, how am I feeling right now? And then turning the ship and going, okay, so how do I want to feel? Let's tap into that, and then begin shifting it bit by bit and noticing, where am I at? Because you can just, sometimes go through the whole day. I certainly used to do this, get to the end of that was a crap day. And I felt crappy all day, but I didn't even take a moment to acknowledge it and go, oh, hang on a second. This is where I am right now.
So it's checking in with ourselves, isn't it? And it's kind of, we say this in the club, don't we, Charlotte? Like almost like getting detective on yourself and figuring out that operating system of like, well, I'm feeling this way. So what's been going on internally, or what have I responded to that's external, that's, that's triggered something, and just kind of, it's going deep, isn't it? It's doing the inner work and figuring out what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah, and I like that, the detective, because NLP is all about having a mindset of curiosity. And I think if you approach it with that curiosity, it can make it fun, because personal development doesn't have to be heavy all the time. And it can just, having that childlike curiosity of, oh, that's interesting. How on earth did I get here today? And then when your mind is curious, it's open to seeing things differently, rather than having a predetermined box of this is what it must be, this is how it is, because if you're in a problem and you haven't figured a way out of it, if you keep sticking with the same problem box, then you're probably not gonna. So it's like, okay, let's take a step back and go, that's interesting, let me get my detective hat on and almost step outside of yourself, like when you're with a friend and from the outside looking in, it's obvious what's going on. Do that with yourself, and take a step out of your own life and look at you like somebody else and go, right, so what's Sian been up to today? What's she, what are those thoughts that she keeps having? And get playful.
Yeah.
I love that, because I think I've put a bit of a box on maybe and kind of lost the curiosity just recently. And that's really, really key, isn't it? To just be curious. And I think sometimes, when you kind of feel like you've done a lot of digging and maybe not quite found that thing of what it is, maybe that's where I've kind of like put a box on and like lost that curiosity. But actually, yeah, take that box away and just let yourself figure it out. Like, it doesn't have to be heavy and big and intense. Like, you can literally just bit by bit just get curious, like you say, setting an alarm and just checking in and going with it that way. I really, really love that.
I think, sorry, carry on.
No, go on.
I was just going to mention about the mind, because have you heard of the reticular activating system?
Yes. Yeah.
So the reticular activating system is it's a part of your brain where there's a bundle of nerves and all your senses are wired to it. So everything you see, hear, feel, and taste. Mm-hmm. Every second of the day, senses are being bombarded with millions of bits of information, most of which we're completely oblivious to because we can't consciously process it. Mm. Now, the reticular activating system acts almost like a radar. So it scans through all of the information, and then it alerts your conscious mind when something that is important to you is within the vicinity. So it like sends off an alarm bell and goes, you over here, come and see me. It's a signal. So you can kind of think of it a bit like a gatekeeper to the mind. Okay. Your name's not down, you're not coming in, or you over there, you can come in. Now, the way it does that is through what's important to you, and the things that are important to you are what you focus on. So roundabout way of saying, if you're always focused on what's the problem, it's like, oh, here's more problem, here's another way that it's a problem. So instead, start asking yourself the questions that you want the answers to. So it could be, how can this be easy? Oh, what if I were to know what the belief was? So again, that curiosity within the questions, because then your brain is going to go, oh, have you thought about maybe this? And oh, here's this book that might have the answer for you. So suddenly your brain starts to notice the answer to those questions. And
I love that.
To add on to that, that's why, when you decide you want something, the whole law of attraction thing, and then you see it everywhere. That's what's happening. Your reticular activating system is going, oh, you said you want this car. Here it is. Here's another one. It's like, oh, where did you all come from? So the answers are always there. They're always surrounding us. They're available to us in every moment. It's about training our brain to ask the questions, to look for them.
Oh, that's a bit of an aha moment for me right now. Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes when life gets challenging, we can then be quite problem focused, can't we? And, and I think I've definitely kind of maybe fallen into that pattern, but that's really helpful. And I want to get my journal out. How can I do this?
Can I share another thing with you? I'm kind of, tell me if I'm just talking. I was going to say, I'm talking too much. It's a podcast.
This is what we want. Go for it.
Just to kind of hone in on that, the moments where maybe things are heavy and they're deep. Another universal law, which is the law of polarity or duality. it's mentioned in many different ways. The way that I explain this is, if you imagine life like a bit of a pendulum. So when the pendulum swings in one direction, it has to swing back in equal measure to balance it back out again. So when you're going through those low times, know that it's, this is the phrase in my head, this too shall pass, because you're just on one end of the pendulum and you know that it's got it. If you're having a really low day, you know that it's going to swing back in equal opposition and you're probably going to have a really high day. The way to balance it in those moments is, when you're in the really high moments, keep grounded. So it will level you out more so. And whether it's been in nature, meditating, and then when you experience the lower moments, know, okay, this is just the opposite end. This isn't a forever. It may not even be a problem. it's just the ebbs and flows of life. You know, waves come in, they go out, things go up, they go down. So it's just seeing it for that. And in those moments, just letting yourself be okay with, oh, this is just life. This is the rhythm of life, and keep focusing on what you want. So even though I'm going through this, I'm still going to hold that curiosity. And this too shall pass. And it, you hear of the extremes of this. So people that live big lives, for want of a better word, pop stars, rock stars on big stages, athletes, where the pendulum's so high, and then they experience those extreme lows, and you hear about the depression that follows and the come down. And it's, a lot of the time, unfortunately, people don't know what to do with that and how to handle it, and they may turn to other things that don't serve them. But when I experience those moments of everything feels heavy, it is like, okay, it's just the law of rhythm, the law of polarity, and it will pass. And what can I take from this moment? How can I be gentle with myself?
That's this too shall pass is such a wonderful thought. It kind of gives you hope in those low moments, doesn't it, that it's not permanent, it's not forever. And I just love that pendulum analogy, it's got to swing back. And I think, apologies if I'm putting you on the spot here, Sian, but sometimes there's this feeling of, if maybe any listeners are listening and so they feel like their pendulum's swung in one particular direction at the moment, sometimes you just feel like you can't get out of that funk that you're in, whether it's just feeling low or depressed, and knowing that it will swing back, but when you just feel a little bit stuck, is there any thought processes or anything they could explore, and just feel like, I just don't know how I'm going to swing back or when I'll swing back, and that just doesn't feel possible? Is there anything you could share that might, I don't know,
absolutely
help support with that?
I'd always encourage people to do, wherever possible, do the deep work. So whether it's joining your community, working with a coach, doing something completely different, and then let's talk kind of day to day. I'm in it right now, help. Now, when it comes to our brain, our thoughts, our feeling, and our physiology are all linked. So the internal chatter, the pictures that we create in our mind, they're all our thoughts. When they change, we feel differently, and we hold ourselves differently. We show up in the world differently. So when one changes, the other must change as well. So in any moment when you're not feeling at your best, I say work with what you've got. So if your thoughts are running away or you're feeling in a bit of a funk, it's like, right, forget about the feeling for now. That bit's feeling heavy. Let me focus on my physiology. So adapt your posture. Adopt, either. do whichever one you want. Adapt your posture, adopt a new one. So ask yourself, right, if I was feeling good, how would I stand? How would I breathe? Because one of the first things that people do in moments of stress or not feeling great is fall into their bodies. They lower their head, their breathing becomes shallow. So it kind of adds and fuels the whole cycle of not feeling great. So shift your shoulders back, just pretend, kind of act as if, right, if I felt good, again, getting curious, how might I stand? How might I breathe differently if I was feeling good? Okay, where would I put my head? So you take on that physiology, you breathe deeply, and you think, right, okay, now what might I say to myself? So it's almost like playing a game of make-believe, and even just changing your physiology, you'll notice that you're not able to access your feelings in the same way that you could previously. And then you could take it a step further and go, right, okay, how can I really tap into this physiology some more? Right, I'm going to go for a power walk. I'm going to put some music on. So it's again that awareness in the moment of, rather than just going down the rabbit hole if this doesn't feel great, right, what's just one simple thing that I could do? Put on some music and dance. That's a great way to shift your physiology, even if you don't feel it. In fact, especially if you don't feel it. Right, I'm just gonna do a dad dance to begin with. And then I'm gonna take it up a notch.
We've been in Tony Robbins' world over the summer and just very recently, and oh my goodness, that is so true. Like I'd say I kind of entered the summer, and to let myself go dancing was always something I've never done. And I'd need a good old few glasses of wine and, all of this. And we went to Tony Robbins, and that was kind of my intentions. I wanted to just set myself free and not feel so just boxed in. And I think probably for a long period of my life, I've kept myself small, probably in my whole body, really, when I, think back. But going and releasing that there, and just, it was literally like we entered the NEC arena to like booming music, like 9 a.m. on a whatever it was, Sunday morning. And you just danced, and you danced to your chair, and you didn't stop dancing all day. And it was the most incredible experience, just to set yourself free. But we can do that. And I've since done it many a times in my kitchen, in the living room, dancing up the stairs with the Hoover. And it's really just letting ourselves go, isn't it? To experience that shift in physiology.
Yeah, and that is, it's working with what you've got in the moment, because it may be that, if you're in a meeting, you're out with friends and not feeling great, it's like, oh, I'm not going to go do a counselling session right now. So like, what can I do? So take yourself off to the bathroom, shake it off, spin around again, make it fun, and then deep breath in, shoulders back, and just let it wash over you. Kind of take a moment to recognize, oh yeah, that feels better, even if it's just a little bit better, because you get more of what you focus on. So it's like, how can I feel just a little bit better? There it is. And now just a little bit better. And your brain's going to go, oh, and here's something else, and here's something else.
Yeah.
And that's
it's such sound advice.
Yeah, it's not that, because sometimes I think we're expecting for like a big wave of good feelings or a big wave of motivation. But in reality, it is that those little bits, isn't it? And like you say, that focus kind of increases, and we get the more of the good things, but we've got to just start and appreciate that beginning bit where it's step by step out of something, haven't we?
It reminds me of something which I'm not an expert in or trained in or know much about, but have you seen the emotional scale?
Yes.
And it reminds me a bit of that, where when you've been feeling depressed or sad or whatever the emotion might be, to start feeling angry, it's a relief, because it's like, oh, now I feel like I've got a bit more power back. And then when you get up to the next scale, so it's not going from despair to complete exhilaration in one go. It's like, oh, I just feel a bit of relief. And then you're focused on that relief, and I just feel a bit better. And then a little bit better again, and appreciating those small movements, because the small movements are that compound effect that add up over time. And it's life, isn't it? Life isn't the big ahas. Yes, they happen, but it's generally the day-to-day of, how can I feel a bit better today? How could I show up slightly differently?
Absolutely.
Definitely. And that's something I think we focus on a lot in the membership. It's celebrating those little steps, and actually being really proud that you made that happen and you created that shift, no matter how small it could be to someone else. If you felt that inside and you made that shift, that is absolutely progress. And that, like you say, is the compound effect. And we're, before you know it, kind of creating this life that we want to live, rather than being dragged down the other way with the submarine.
Yeah, that's it. And I love when you mentioned, Sian, also that doing the things, so changing the physiology or changing the thoughts in the moments where you're not feeling so great. You said it's even more so important to do it when you don't want to do it. And we say this a lot in the club, don't we, Sian? Like, do the things that make you feel better, even when you don't feel like doing them. And it's just seeing them for yourself, isn't it? Because it is that choice in that moment. It's having the awareness of what's going on. But it's that choice, isn't it? Well, if I get up and change my physiology and just take those little steps, I'm going to feel better. But it is kind of helping ourselves do those things even when we don't feel like doing them. That's when we can really support ourselves and make that shift, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to, I think most of this does in life, is taking responsibility for ourselves and our results. Another universal law. I feel like a universal law machine. I'm loving today.
Yes, keep coming with them. Keep going.
So another universal law, which is a really, really powerful one, is the law of cause and effect, which is, so for every effect, every result that happens in our life, there will have been a cause that created it. Now, the mindset that I teach my students and clients to adopt is many people live their lives at effect. So it's like, this caused me to feel this way. This was the cause of the creation of this life that I have. So the thing about that is, when you live a life at effect, you have reasons, you have excuses as to why things are the way they are, but you can't do anything to change it. So by tapping into the universal law of cause and effect, you say, right, so there's a cause for everything that happens. So this is about me becoming the creator and making things a choice. So even if you're having a day or a moment in time where you go, right, I feel rubbish right now, you say, okay, so I'm the creator of my reality, so I'm choosing to feel rubbish, which isn't very popular.
No.
But what it is empowering, because you can say, right, so I do have a choice right now. I could stand up and dance. I could go for a walk. I could breathe deeply. I could do something different that I know is going to help me. If I don't do that, then rather than saying that, I can't do that, many people will use the word, I can't get to the gym, I can't achieve this goal. See it as a choice, and you say, I'm choosing to not do it. I won't do it. I won't go to the gym, because then you can stop the self-sabotage cycle of, I can't do that. Oh, I should have done that, but I didn't do that. Oh, I failed. Oh, I'll do it next time. Oh, I didn't do it. And you kind of go round and round. So even if you say, do you know what? I'm just going to choose to feel a bit rubbish for an hour. I'm going to wallow in self-pity. I'm going to get it all out. I'm going to blame the world and everybody in it. And then I'm going to do something differently. So then you become empowered, because it's like, do you know what? I'm going to do it fully. I'm not even going to beat myself up about it. I'm just going to go all in. And you probably find after about 10 minutes, it's a bit boring. But it's making, in any moment, going, right, so if I create everything, whether this is true or not, if I choose to look at it that I cause all of the effects, then how am I causing this? How am I causing myself to feel this way? Well, I'm thinking about the ex that did me wrong. I'm thinking about the job I hate. I'm focusing on this thing over here. Or I could choose to do this instead.
It's just going back to that curiosity again, isn't it? And being open to new perspectives and different ways, doing something different, thinking in a different way. Curiosity.
Turning it into a game. So, okay, if I'm so powerful, I've created me feeling like this now. So, let me get curious. What else could I do? What else could I create? Something that I actually like and want.
Yeah. Oh,
kids are great at it, aren't they? Because
they
kids
are.
they play make believe. To go back to the physiology, changing physiology, kids would have their imaginary superhero cloak on, and it's like, I am this person. I've got my hands on my hips, and in their head, that's who they are, and that's who they show up as. So it's allowing us to be ourselves, to be a bit more childlike in the way that we approach it.
There was a reel actually that I shared that came up, and I just had to share, and it was basically a load of small children, and they were asked if there was one thing they could change about their body, what would it be? And they all looked really like confused, like, what? And then they started coming through with the most incredible answers. It was like, to gain this superpower, or to gain oh gosh, I wish I could remember more of them, but the answers were just so empowering, and it was just in their minds and one of them was like, I don't want to change anything about my body. And when you just like, what happened? Why could we not be those people that believed and dreamt and could see ourselves with that superpower? And just, it really touched my heart. And I just thought that was brilliant. And it just made me rethink of that again, because we just lose that childlikeness, don't we? And I think for me, this whole journey of kind of coming back to my authentic self, it's been going back to little Charlotte within, who knew who she was, who knew what she wanted, but life just got a bit in the way, and she lost track and kind of was just trying to blend in and fit in, and obviously picked up all of this massive submarine on my journey.
And it is that, isn't it? We are at our I was going to say our essence. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. At our core, we are that bright shining star, that child, and it's just the layers that come in the form of a limiting belief, a negative emotion, something, self-doubt, all of these things that we put on ourselves. So if you begin to peel those back, it's like we can tap into the child that had those big dreams that are still within us. And our unconscious mind is like a 5-year-old child. So it's, you know, it takes everything literally, it takes everything personally, it wants to follow your instructions, so it wants to serve you. Yet what most people do is beat their unconscious mind up, like beat themselves up and say, oh, you're so stupid. So again, taking a step back and thinking, right, would I speak to a 5-year-old child like that? Would I speak to little me in the way that I speak to myself now? And it's like your mind is still that little you that just wants to do a good job and help, and sometimes it gets it wrong or it doesn't do it quite right. Yeah, if you can give it that same love and compassion, then it takes that pressure off and allows you to then make changes more easily, rather than, you know, if you're resisting something, it's persisting. So if you're, you know, imagine if you're pushing something over, well, it's going to push back to say, no, you're not pushing me over. Whereas if you can just let that resistance go, it's like, oh, no, I can just give you a hug, mold into you, let's integrate, and things will resolve themselves.
I love that. I
that.
literally have a picture. Oh gosh, I've got them all. I've got my husband's picture, random picture there as well. But I have a picture of me, little me, on my desk for that very reason, to just be like, that's why I'm doing this, you know, why I'm continuing to walk this way. And, you know, because it can feel sometimes like the path less walked, can't it? And like, you know, you kind of, sometimes when we always say this, don't we, Kat, like thinking about your thoughts, sometimes it's quite nice to not think about your thoughts in some moments, but go back to the curiosity and remember why, because she knew what she wanted and she knew where she was going. And I have so much more fun when I'm connected to her.
And that's such a great question, Sian, that you asked, that we can ask ourselves, like, would I talk to my 6-year-old self the way I'm currently talking to myself? And I'm pretty certain most of us would say, no, we wouldn't do that.
No.
So we don't need to talk to ourselves in that way. We can give ourselves the love, the kindness, the compassion, the understanding, the patience, the encouragement, all of it. Just because we're a bit older, we don't need to be so unkind to ourselves. And I think that's a really great question to just keep at the forefront of our minds.
And it, you know, if you think about children as well, if they were to go out and do something for the first time and it didn't go as planned, you would never say to them, you're such a failure. Like, how could you not do it? Yet as grown-ups, we have that, you know, there's so many people have the expectation, well, if I go and do this, I might fail, so I'm not going to do it. You think, well, of course you're going to fail. You didn't ride your bike first time. It's not failing, you're just learning. So, like, again, having that playfulness and that forgiveness for yourself, that we're always doing the best that we can with the resources that we've got in any moment. If we could do better, then we would. And it's only through those experiences and learning from them and taking on board those lessons so that we do something differently next time, that the experiences aren't ever wasted. They're just part of the journey. And I hope that in 10 years, in 12 months even, I'm going to look back at me today and go, oh my gosh, Sian today would never say that on a podcast because I've learned so much. But that's okay, because Sian now is doing what she can do. So kind of looking back at yourself in past versions, even as far as last week, and go, that version of me was doing the best she could, and I've learned something since then.
Adopting that learning and growth mindset, isn't it? It's quite game changing. It really is. And having the conversations around the younger self actually kind of brings me on to a question we have, Charlotte, don't we? So we're basically, from now on, Sian, you're the first person to experience what we're doing on our podcast. So to kind of close our podcast up, we're now going to be asking our guest the same question each episode. So the question I would love to ask you is, what one piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Just
it's an on the spot one.
I would see, there's so many bits of advice that I know she wouldn't have listened to. Believe in yourself. It's like, my mum probably told me that. So if I was to go and give her advice now, I would tell her to get curious, experiment, and know that whatever she's doing today doesn't have to be forever. Because I used to put so much pressure on myself to work things out and think, if I do this now, then, you know, if I go down this career path, then that's it. I've got to plan the next 10 years. And it's like, actually, just go play and see what you enjoy in life. See which bits light you up. And if they do light you up, then go and play some more. To have more fun with it. I think that's probably quite personal to me, in that I stopped myself having fun until I probably hit 30. So it'd be just go and experiment and see what's fun. And then I think that's the character building as well, isn't it? Because it's like, oh, I did this thing over here, and actually I was really quite good at that part of it. And then you don't realize until you get older that later on you weave that very thing into something that is completely different to that, but you took a skill, you took some character building from it. So yeah, go and play.
Love it. Get curious, experiment, go have fun, and do more of what lights you up. Perfect.
Amazing. Oh, thank you. Oh, what an episode. Honestly, I'm already looking forward to listening to this back. There was that many nuggets. Wait to listen back. I'm like, I really want to listen to this, because I took so much from it. So a big thank you, Sian. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of your incredible words and just techniques and different things with us. It's been so amazing. It really has.
Really
thank you for having me. I've had so much fun.
Yeah, amazing. And as always, guys, we'll put all of Sian's details in the show notes so you can find out how to get in touch with Sian or work with Sian if you'd like to continue that journey with her. So yes, it's been absolutely wonderful. Please know that we are here for you. You can reach out to us anytime in our DMs or email us hello@theauthenticgirlsclub.com, and we'll see you on the next episode. So lovely to chat with you, Sian, and take care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.